Good afternoon, everyone. This will be another one that will go on Facebook because I think it's important enough to be on that platform. Uh, so after going to the last three tournaments that I have attended in Launceston and the surrounding suburbs, Latrobe and Cressy last night, this is something that's common knowledge amongst most people in the boxing scene, and I'm sure it's the same in other combat sports in our state. Unfortunately, we have a systemic problem, a historical problem even, where because if someone has a problem with someone or animosity, it can be a personal issue, an old grudge, an old argument, something that actually doesn't affect here and now. For that reason, it will prevent clubs from training together. When I say clubs, it really comes down to the athletes because they are the ones that miss out. They are the ones that don't get to train with as many other boxers, competing boxers being the main thing, because of issues other people have. Now, I know this from personal experience because I had to change clubs just at the start of this year because of animosity someone else held for other people where I was training and getting great training, I might add. So for me, I was put in a very uncompromising position where I had to pick between going to another gym and training with top tier competing fighters and experienced fighters that are better than me, much better than me. So of course I want to get there and do as much training with these people as I can because they have multiple athletes that are at a higher level than me. So for an individual, anyone to be systematically stopping their whole club, not just one boxer, their whole club, from being able to train somewhere else because of a problem they may have or perceive to have with someone else. It's kind of like, I believe, this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, that's wrong because at the end of the day, we are such a small state. We only have so many combat athletes and boxers in particular. It's rudimentary to think that by limiting your athletes' capability of training at other people's gyms or having them come to your gym, or as I'm going to outline, I think we need to find some middle ground where we can all agree on a place for all of us to come to, whether it's once a month, once every 8 weeks. Like obviously schedules and things like that have to line up. People are going to have to agree for it to happen because otherwise it'll be the same deal. We can all say, let's meet at Longford football ground and have some sparring today. Statewide, anyone that wants to do boxing training, be there at 12 o'clock, it'll go till 4 o'clock, whatever. But obviously if people are just like, I'm not going there because they're going to be there. For me personally, a real leader, and this comes from some of the greatest minds, a real leader, like I'm stealing their literature, a real leader does not enforce their problems, their views, their beliefs into other people, onto other people, and try to force you into their way of living life. They simply lead by example, and if you follow and want to reciprocate what they're doing, that's fine. But for me personally, I can't afford, this is just me personally, I can't afford to have someone say to me, a coach or a gym owner, you can't go and train at that club, or you can't train with those other athletes because I said, or because it's not good for the image of this club, or for any reason really. Because as I said, like for me, we are a small state and we don't have the numbers. Like every gym's got great fighters, great athletes, great competitors. But it's not rocket science. If you want those great athletes and those great competitors to get better and better and better, they need variety. They need as many short, tall, big, small, fast, hard punching, quick punching, combination punches, left-handers, right-handers. Like experience levels vary. You've got to have variety because otherwise it's not the same. Like if you just train and spar and compete against the same people all the time before going into real competition, Are you really ready? Yes, you may be ready to a degree, but are you as ready as you could be? Have you got the best sparring that you could have gotten leading into your fight? For me personally, that's what happened. I was being forced not to go somewhere and spar against top level amateurs and people that have had some of the most amazing careers in Australian boxing, all because of someone else's decision, like that was going to harm my chances of winning my first pro fight. Like it, for me, it's not rocket science. Like I understand, not everyone's going to get along. I understand that. It's not about that. I'm not saying let's all meet up in one spot so we can call each other names and have out our arguments. I'm asking, why can't we just put all the animosity and the bullshit aside and focus on the athletes? If the athletes have an issue, they can spar it out. Do you get me? Like, it just, for me, I want to propose something. I used this analogy last night to a couple of people, like referencing this situation that we have here in Tasmania. I said, I sort of look at it like this. And I'm not trying to be a know-it-all or speak on behalf of everyone. This is just a really good example of like, if this happened, I'd like to think that everyone would go, switch on, we've got to look after all our Tasmanian athletes. Who cares what we think about one another? I'll explain. Let's just say, for example, how the Saudi king or prince, Turk al-Sheikh, has now made sure that all these super fights happen. Let's say, for example, someone in Australia or Tasmania, doesn't matter where they are, just decided, all right, I want to see Tasmania's best amateurs, all of them, from 10 years old to however old the oldest amateur is competing, and every professional from 18 to as old as they can be, probably me, antique over here, but anyway, I want to see every state's best amateur and best professional that are competing fight each other. Now, when I look at it like that, or think about it like that, I don't know, but personally, if I seen any Tasmanian boxer lined up to fight an interstate opponent, I'm backing the Tassie boy, the Tassie girl, every day. And anyone that's not, they can fucking sit over there. They can go over there. No one from Tassie is going to be, or in my opinion, should be singled out and told, oh, you can't sit with us, you can't be next to us, our club's not your club. Fuck that. We're all Tasmanian at the end of the day. And I understand we compete against each other and clubs have rivalries and boxers have rivalries. That's a good thing. That should be encouraged because that's the competitive edge that you get from fighting. If you get in there and you're best mates with everyone that you're always sparring and always competing against and trying to outbox, outfight, it's hard because you build rapport with people. Sometimes you don't want to get in there and try and drop people and hurt people and, land 10 punches to one if you can, because these are people that you see 5 days a week. Some people more. Like they're friends, they're family. Yes, they have that competitive nature because they're combat athletes. But when you start mixing it up and bringing clubs in, the temperature rises, the atmosphere changes, and people get more competitive. That's just a natural occurrence when you put a group of men and women that fight, box, compete in a combat sport in the same environment and say we are all here to test our abilities and our limitations to help one another get to as high a level as we can in our chosen sport. For me, again, it's not rocket science. Like, why because someone has an issue with someone else, do we allow an entire club of athletes to not train with another entire club of athletes because the coaches may have had a disagreement or have disagreements or don't like each other? It doesn't matter what it is to me. That's what I mean. That's just my opinion. It should be put aside for the athlete because, as I just explained, if someone was to somehow create a super tournament, state versus state, every amateur, every competing amateur and every competing professional getting matched as best if it could be made happen, this is just a hypothetical, but it's the analogy and the example that, like, if it was state versus state, are you really going to let your athletes stay in your gym and unless you approve of who they spar with or who they train alongside or who they do beep tests with to compete against, all these sorts of things to help your athlete grow and get better. Would you really, knowing that they're about to fight only interstate opponents, so all Tassie boys and girls would be fighting only all Melbourne boys and girls, would you honestly believe that over there, because I know this from experience, over there they have inter-club sparrings and big joint sessions where like 6-7 clubs come together. We struggle to do that because we've probably only got 8 boxing clubs. And like when 2-3 of them, even one of them, have to miss out for whatever reason of like inter-club sparring and all the athletes coming together, let's leave the coaches out of it. It's not about the coaches for me, because yes, they are pivotal to the athlete's development, their stability, their growth, their confidence, all these things. But here's the thing. If it's coaches or trainers or people that aren't actually the athlete themselves making this overall decision for all athletes in their club, that's a negative thing. That's just my opinion. That's a negative thing. Like, I'm not suggesting that we all just meet up and punch the piss out of each other either because we have disagreements or have had disagreements. I'm not saying let's patch it up by slugging it out and giving each other brain damage. I'm literally just suggesting that we need to look at it from a common sense, logical standpoint. There is only so many of us here. If everyone took that notion of, oh no, like, that's a different club, you can't train with them because of whatever, it doesn't matter the reason. Could you imagine if our boxers, if we all only got to train and spar with the people in our own clubs? Of course you're going to get better and you're going to grow and all them sorts of things, but you need variety. Coaches teach differently, they train their fighters differently, so naturally every club's athletes box and fight differently. So that variety is key. Personally, I just want to make a suggestion. If we were to have a vote, and I'm talking coaches and athletes and trainers and staff from every club, if we were to just have a vote as to whether we could make it work once a month, once every 3 months, it doesn't matter. It's just about getting it done for me. Once a year for all I care. Well, I don't mean that. I'd love it to be once a fortnight, once a week. You know, if we could get all 50, I'd like to actually know that. If anyone has the answer off the top of their head or information in data, how many active amateur boxers do we have, boys and girls, young and old, and how many registered active pros do we have in our state? If I could get that data, I could make another video and sort of, you know, be a bit more pinpoint and punctual about what I'm trying to say here. But let's just say we've only got 38 amateurs, boys and girls, and 15 pros, boys and girls. They're spread out, like I said, over 6 to 10 clubs. How crazy is it to think that, like, some clubs in the mainland, they have that many fighters in one club? So, like, when we talk about variety and standard of sparring partners and levels and the variety of different fighters, height, size, all these things, weight, we'd be mad. It's like, it's sort of like going into a car race and letting one person use a V8 and the other person's got to have a V6. That's how I look at it. Like, I know that's a bad example, but if you're sending your fighter into a ring, knowing you restricted them from going and getting quality sparring from people that are better than them, people that are on the same level as them, or basically just having that variety so that they're better prepared to win. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not a coach and I'm not trying to pretend to be one or trying to be one. I'm just suggesting that, like, I've experienced this personally and it was hurtful because I wasn't going to turn my back on people that had been absolutely respectful and helpful to me just because my coach had an issue with them. Like, a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, it's about loyalty, it's about respect, it's about this, it's about that. If we're racing a car around a track and the worst that can happen is I have a car accident and roll the car, that's a bad example again, but if it's badminton, basketball, football, something where I can't die or be killed or maim or seriously injured? Absolutely. It doesn't really matter what the coach makes me do or says or does, because worst case scenario, you lose. Big whoop, you move on from it. In fighting, you can die. Like, if you get bad advice or no advice at all when you come back to that corner, or you haven't been adequately prepared by lack of sparring, lack of variety of training and sparring partners, and then on top of that, you're getting bad advice or no advice, or you're just being walked down the garden path. They just want you in there to fight no matter what the build-up and the preparation and your readiness is. That's wrong. Like, and I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, I'm just saying in general. If you send anyone into a fight knowing that they are unprepared or not as prepared as they should be or could have been, that's on you. That's my opinion. Because the fighter doesn't get to say, stuff you to the coach, I'm fighting anyway. If the coach decides, no, you missed 3 out of 5 training sessions for the last month, you didn't spar for the last 3 weeks, or that's a big example, but like if you didn't get adequate training and they're watching you in training and you're not ready, only an arsehole would put you in a ring or a cage or a grappling only an arsehole would do that, because at the end of the day, your health, safety and life is on the line when you fight. So, I don't know. I just want to, like I said, I'd like to it'd be awesome if we could just have a vote. It doesn't have to be public. People don't have to put their name to it in public, but like other people, not me, have the ability to work out how many amateurs we've got, how many pros we've got, who are competing and going to go on to compete, so that we can try and work out the dynamics so that we're all getting the most out of each other, getting the best out of each other as often as we can. Like, I know I said once a month, once every 3 months, once every year would be ideal, but ideally, this becomes a systematic program that every combat sport club, not just boxing clubs, integrates into their training. Like we turn it into something that's systematic. So that would be an ideal world, because your athletes, your boxers, your fighters are only going to benefit from it. To think that an argument or a few harsh words that have been flung around a week before, a year before, a decade before is going to affect how your athlete grows from training with that person's athletes, that's retarded. Like, I promise you, when you get in the ring and start sparring with people that are on your level or higher than you especially, the last thing on your mind is, oh, my coach and his coach don't get along. Or, oh, do I remember what he said about what he said to him? Like, you don't give a fuck when you're the athlete. I promise you. Because your life's on the line. Even when you're sparring, you can come out of there with a broken nose, chip. I've lost my teeth in sparring. My 2 front teeth. Like, this isn't about anyone but the athletes. I'm not being a know-it-all. I don't think I know it all. I just think this is sort of common sense. After going to these 3 tournaments and seeing the pool of potential, the wealth of athletes that we've got, I want to see them all, like anyone they fight. Like, it's hard for me watching Tassie athletes fight Tassie athletes. Like last night, there was people that I've known equally as long competing against each other. People were saying to me, oh, you can't go, what are you screaming out their name for? You're meant to be going for such and such. And I'm just like, oh, I've trained and sparred and respect, and they respect me as well. They've let me into their gyms. I can't, it's, for me, I love the sport. Anyone that's in there, I want to support them, especially if they're Tasmanian. That's the thing I want to get across. This isn't about singling out anyone or my personal experiences. It's about highlighting the fact that we need to grow. We need to put all of our athletes, boy and girl, young and old, in the best possible position so that when each and every one of us compete, we stand the best chance of winning. That is all I'm trying to say. Thank you for your time, and again, open to people commenting on the post, open to people sharing their opinions and views, but I'd really just like to strongly support the idea of us all coming together. When I say all, it's not on the athletes to make this happen. It's on the coaches, I believe. So I would love for all the coaches around the state to just listen to this video and hopefully try and help implement something. Like, how good would it be to see every Tasmanian boxer in one spot and not at a tournament, not sitting all around the room like disconnected and separated, like actually training as a team? Because for me, again, I know there's rivalries. I know there's that competitive edge. People want to beat this person from LBC or Latrobe or Barossa or Brighton. That's good. That's healthy. But I still don't. I don't want to see anyone from Tasmania lose ever, even when they are fighting each other. I wish for a draw. But you know what I'm saying? I just want to see all of our athletes be put in the best possible position to be guaranteed victory. That's my thing here, okay? Nothing else. That's it. Thank you.